From the cold void above, we observed her, a single point of motion against the sprawling terrestrial landscape. She was small, seemingly fragile, yet every movement radiated intent, precision, and an energy we had rarely recorded in a human subject. The child ran, not stumbled, across obstacle courses that would crush lesser species. We watched as heavy loads bent under her grip, yet she moved with a fluid grace as though the weight itself obeyed her command. It was not instinct alone. Her mind calculated, adapted, and anticipated at speeds beyond human norms. Each footfall, each decision, each flicker of gaze was a ripple in a river we had assumed we fully understood. We, chroniclers of countless civilizations, felt an unfamiliar unease. How could something so delicate manifest such unyielding force? Her every action was a message. She had been forged by a system relentless in discipline, a crucible of strategy and endurance, the military machinery of Earth. We recorded every moment, cataloging her reactions, comparing them to hundreds of generations of human soldiers we had observed. Yet she was different. Unlike others, fear did not shape her responses. Pain did not diminish her resolve. Even in the most grueling trials, her eyes shone, not with blind obedience, but with something far more terrifying: comprehension. She understood her limits, then chose to surpass them. Around her, humans moved in synchrony, yet she led without speaking. Her presence dictated rhythm and timing, and invisible gravity binding them to her will. From our sensors, it was impossible to separate training from instinct, intellect from intuition. Each maneuver she executed was precise, yet bore the spontaneity of living improvisation. We sensed potential. We sensed danger. We, creatures who had cataloged dominions and toppled species with thought alone, realized, perhaps for the first time, that this species might be untamable. Could such a fragile form harbor the capacity to outmaneuver even the most sophisticated of our machines? Could this human child, shaped by Earth's unforgiving discipline, truly be a predator unlike any we had yet cataloged? The horizon darkened with storm clouds, yet she ran undeterred, her silhouette sharp against lightning flashes. In that moment, from the cold expanse above, we understood this was no ordinary human, and the universe had never before witnessed a force like her.
And as we continued to observe, a whisper of unease spread across our command consoles. Something was stirring, something that could challenge the very order we believed immutable. Her first trial was complete, yet the real test, ours, was only just beginning. We arrived in silence, our ships cutting through the void like shadows, anticipating hesitation, caution, fear. We had prepared for them to scatter, to falter, to reveal weakness. Instead, they waited, and at the center of their gathering, she stood, small, unarmed, yet radiating a force that resonated across our sensors. The humans around her orbited, not chaotically, but with cohesion, an invisible tether to her presence. Communication was minimal, almost non-existent, yet her authority transcended words. Each gesture, each glance commanded attention. Our patrol ships shifted formation, attempting intimidation, projecting our dominance in ways our algorithms had deemed unassailable, and yet she did not flinch. Instead, she shifted, subtle, precise, anticipating patterns we had not yet defined. She adapted with a fluidity that left our most advanced scouts struggling to keep pace. We experienced something alien: confusion, an inefficiency in our calculations, a deviation we could neither reconcile nor control. Across our long-range sensors, we traced movement, patterns within patterns. Humans repositioned themselves, exploiting cover, terrain, and line of sight as though the battlefield extended beyond the physical, into strategy itself. Improvisation appeared instinctive. Every response felt preemptive. It was unlike anything we had cataloged in the hundreds of civilizations we had observed. The humans' capacity for innovation was unpredictable. As we watched, the initial thrill of superiority waned. Our own systems flagged anomalies, deviations too complex, too nuanced. We had assumed, as all species do, that size, firepower, and experience would dictate dominance. But here, the calculations faltered. She had redefined the rules before a single strike had been made. A shiver of unease traveled through our command network. Perhaps this species, dismissed, underestimated, trivialized, possessed depth we had never imagined, depth we could neither anticipate nor suppress. We hovered above, unsure whether to engage or retreat. And in that moment, as she adjusted her stance, eyes scanning the horizon, we sensed it. Humans did not merely survive, they imposed their own order, silently, inevitably.
The first encounter had begun, and already we were unsure who was truly in command. The assault began at dawn. From our vantage in orbit, the surface glowed with the first light of their sun, and we unleashed the first wave of our forces, a calculated, precise strike meant to test boundaries, probe weaknesses, and measure their responses. We expected chaos, panic spreading like wildfire among the humans, disarray, retreat, submission. The simulations had predicted it. A species unprepared for the scale and precision of our attack would crumble, would fracture, would beg for mercy. That expectation, however, shattered within the first moments. The humans did not scatter, they did not flee, they did not plead. Instead, they responded with strategy, deliberate and intelligent, almost surgical in execution. At the center of this orchestrated resistance stood her, the child we had watched grow, seemingly fragile from orbit, now moved with a precision and authority that defied our comprehension. Small units swarmed under her command, flowing through the terrain like water through canyons, never colliding, never faltering. Every movement was both calculated and spontaneous, a paradox our sensors struggled to decode. Retreats were never disorganized, they were feints, luring our forces into traps that we had failed to anticipate, patterns within patterns. Our units, confident, supremely trained, began to falter. We experienced an unfamiliar sensation, hesitation, disorientation, doubt. The battlefield, which had once been a canvas we controlled, became fluid, shifting unpredictably with every decision she made. Across our long-range monitoring, her presence radiated command like a gravitational pull, bending the humans around her into cohesive formations that optimized survival, offense, and psychological impact. We attempted to exploit fear, the universal motivator. Our weapons, designed to intimidate, to coerce submission, were met with resilience. Every attack they endured seemed to strengthen them, not break them. Our scouts, analyzing behavioral patterns, detected something utterly alien. Humans were not motivated solely by survival. They were motivated by choice, by will, by an instinctive determination to endure and dominate, not through instinct alone, but through conscious, deliberate action. As we pressed harder, attempting to overwhelm them with coordinated strikes, their improvisation escalated. Barricades appeared where none should have existed.
Counterattacks struck at weak points we had assumed impervious. Timing was uncanny. Strategy flowed from their ranks like a living organism, adaptive, responsive, impossible to fully anticipate. Each of our calculated maneuvers was met with innovation. Each of our victories, fleeting, was tempered by an even greater countermeasure. Alien psychology, so reliable across species, failed us. Fear, instinct, hierarchy, these were our tools for control, the constants we relied upon across galaxies. And yet here, on this blue-green world, they were ineffective. Humans, led by her, demonstrated something no simulation had prepared us for. Resilience amplified by choice, courage nurtured by adversity, and unity forged not by coercion but by conviction. Our commanders felt it first, a subtle tremor across the neural net linking the armada, uncertainty. The same force that had never known failure began to hesitate. Calculations that had once been precise now oscillated with anomaly after anomaly. Patterns broke down, algorithms struggled to adapt. Our war plans, meticulously prepared over decades of intelligence gathering, unraveled before the sheer audacity of these humans. By the second wave, our armada's cohesion weakened. Units that should have advanced into key positions stalled, confused by traps and feints that only a human mind, unbound by rigid protocols, could conceive. And through it all, she moved like a conductor of an unseen symphony, orchestrating chaos into an ordered crescendo that left us both awed and terrified. We had assumed our dominance, our technological superiority, our understanding of life itself would render this species predictable. Yet as we watched our forces falter, as we recorded every countermeasure she devised, we experienced an unprecedented realization. Humans could survive where others would fail, thrive where others would collapse, perhaps even outlast us. A ripple of unease spread across the Armada, the first genuine tremor of fear, not in weapons, not in strategy, but in the minds of beings who had never feared, coursed through our leadership. And in the center of it all, she moved forward, eyes scanning the horizon, body poised for the next move, unwavering. The provocation had succeeded in ways we could never have predicted, and yet in the quiet moments before the next strike, a singular chilling thought crystallized in our collective awareness. This battle was no longer about testing boundaries. It was about survival.
Hers, ours, and perhaps the survival of a species we had never truly understood. The first assault had ended, but the war, the true war, was only beginning, and already the rules had changed. From orbit, we continued our observation, expecting preparation, but what unfolded was beyond calculation. The humans moved with a precision that was almost artistic. Their formation shifted and flexed like a living organism, responding to our movements with a fluidity that defied prediction. Each squad, each team, each individual seemed both autonomous and perfectly synchronized, as though some invisible network bound them to one will. At the center, she directed, trained, and inspired. Her methods were relentless, but never cruel. Punishment was unnecessary. Her authority was not rooted in fear, as we had expected, but in respect, in a clarity of purpose that radiated from her every motion. Humans followed not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. They trusted her, and in that trust, they found strength. We attempted to test them with escalating pressure, simulated bombardments, rapid-fire engagements, psychological probes, but each time they adapted, learning faster than our algorithms could model. Improvisation was instinctive, yet guided by reason. They transformed every obstacle into an opportunity, every weakness into a pivot point. Our most sophisticated tactics, strategically dominant across dozens of civilizations, crumbled beneath this human ingenuity. Their advantage was no longer mere technology, nor raw numbers, nor even brute force. It was creativity, moral courage, willpower, the ability to act decisively when fear might have paralyzed others. They exploited the predictability of our attacks, turning what we assumed would intimidate them into traps for our own forces. With every encounter, we recorded anomalies in efficiency, adaptability, and problem-solving, an unprecedented rate of evolution in real time under stress. Even the terrain itself seemed subordinate to their command. Hills, forests, rivers, and urban sprawls became instruments of strategy. We detected a pattern emerging. Humans imposed order not by controlling the environment, but by understanding it, bending it to their needs. The battlefield became a stage on which their ingenuity performed its most lethal acts. Our commanders began to hesitate, even question. Our previous assumption that superior technology and organization guaranteed dominance was being eroded by an unquantifiable, intangible factor, human resolve. We had anticipated resistance, yes, but not this level of conscious, adaptive, and relentless determination. Their confidence radiated outward, infecting units across the battlefield, reshaping our own assessment of risk and possibility. We began to understand that we were observing something beyond tactical mastery. This was a species capable of reshaping the dynamics of conflict through sheer ingenuity and willpower. And at the center of it all was her, the architect of their edge, the conductor of chaos, a human whose presence elevated ordinary soldiers into instruments of precision and resilience. Every failed maneuver, every miscalculated strike from our forces amplified the sense of unease across the Armada. The battlefield, which should have been ours to dominate, now belonged in essence to them.
The humans were not only surviving, they were redefining the rules of engagement. And as night fell across the war-torn landscape, with fires flickering in valleys and the hum of displaced machinery filling the air, we realized a truth that would haunt our calculations. They had found the human edge, and it was one we could neither predict nor contain. The next engagement would test both species, but already we sensed it. The humans had seized initiative, and the outcome of the war would be determined not by numbers or firepower, but by ingenuity, adaptability, and the singular force of human will. We had approached this campaign with certainty, our fleets meticulously coordinated, our ships armed with the deadliest weapons in known space, our strategies honed across countless conquests. Everything suggested that humans would be a minor obstacle. Yet the moment they struck back, all preconceptions shattered. The first wave of countermeasures hit with precision that our sensors could barely track. Entire squadrons fell under coordinated ambushes, strikes executed at angles that defied our algorithms. We had anticipated panic. We had planned chaos. Instead, we observed strategy, intelligence, and adaptability. Every maneuver was informed by a level of situational awareness we had never seen in a human population, let alone in one led by a single commander. She anticipated our movements as if reading the battlefield before it unfolded, exploiting weaknesses that had never been cataloged.
Our ships, designed for interstellar dominance, faltered. Systems failed. Sensors misread data. Communications tangled as humans manipulated both environment and expectation. Across the fleet, our command nodes signaled anomalies, inconsistencies, and miscalculations. We faced an unexpected calculus. Humans were not merely reactive, they innovated under pressure. They evolved tactics mid-conflict, transforming desperation into opportunity, vulnerability into strength. Observing them, awe began to seep into our perceptions, a sensation we had rarely experienced. Across the cosmos, we had cataloged apex predators, intelligent civilizations, and technologically advanced societies, yet none displayed such adaptive cunning under duress. They pressed forward relentlessly, turning each failed maneuver into a stepping stone, exploiting every misstep, every hesitation, every moment of overconfidence. Their movements were both fluid and deliberate, instinct fused with calculation. It was as if the battlefield itself conspired to their advantage, reshaped by the force of their will. Our analysts struggled to comprehend it. Every strategy that had succeeded elsewhere failed here. Every assumption about human limitations proved incorrect. They possessed resilience, not blind or instinctive, but informed by experience and intuition, sharpened by adversity, and strengthened by a collective, unyielding will to survive. We saw coordination that mimicked orchestration, improvisation that appeared as instinct, and courage that defied reason. Ships fell from the sky, sensors blacked out, command networks trembled, and through it all she moved among them, not commanding from safety, but embedded within the flow of conflict, guiding, observing, inspiring. Humans became more than soldiers. They became adaptive predators, courage their weapon, ingenuity their armor. They did not merely react, they imposed their own logic upon the chaos, reshaping the battlefield with every strike. We had assumed this would be a minor challenge, a test of efficiency and firepower. Instead, it evolved into revelation. Humans were not merely survivors, they were agents of transformation. Each engagement forced us to recalculate our superiority. Each encounter revealed another layer of depth, another level of adaptability, another reason to doubt our invincibility. A shiver of unease spread across the fleet.
For the first time in recorded history, a species we had considered insignificant was forcing us to confront uncertainty, to wrestle with unpredictability. The humans pressed on, relentless, unbroken, unstoppable in ways our logic could not account for. And as the horizon burned with the fires of conflict, as wreckage littered the battle-scarred plains, we understood a truth that no simulation could teach. Humans were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to redefine what survival meant. The turning point had arrived, and with it, the universe began to reconsider the nature of humanity. From the void above, we observed, our sensors straining to capture every motion, every ripple of the battlefield below. What unfolded was beyond prediction, beyond calculation. Humans executed a strike that should have been impossible by any metric we had ever established. Entire command networks, our nerve centers of strategy and communication, crumbled beneath precision attacks we had assumed unfeasible. Morale across our forces fractured. as if struck by some unseen force. At the forefront of this maelstrom stood her. She moved among them with a grace and courage that defied our ability to quantify. Calculated, deliberate, yet instinctual, every decision she made radiated authority and insight. Our algorithms, designed to anticipate every possible move, faltered again and again. Timing, deception, improvisation, all became weapons in her arsenal. Strength alone could not match it. Even our elite units, the pinnacle of interstellar design and training, fell prey to her tactics. The humans did not merely react, they orchestrated, reshaped, and redefined each moment of conflict to their advantage. We watched, unable to intervene fast enough to counteract, as the battlefield itself seemed to bend to human will. Structures became traps, terrain became shields, every environmental variable exploited with uncanny intelligence. Our drones and automated units, normally flawless in execution, were ensnared by misdirection and feints. Their adaptive strategies made predictability impossible. What we had assumed to be chaos was in fact choreography of unparalleled precision. Awe and fear intermingled within our collective consciousness. We had cataloged civilizations that spanned light years, species that had toppled empires, yet none possessed the audacity, the cunning, the resilience we witnessed here.
This species, primitive and fragile in appearance, had rewritten the rules of engagement. They were no longer merely players, they were arbiters of their own destiny. Across the battlefield, we observed her pausing briefly, eyes scanning the horizon. One decision, one shift of weight, and an entire squad maneuvered into position that sealed a critical victory. Every human under her command mirrored her resolve, their movements synchronized not through orders alone, but through trust, intuition, and unwavering determination. Each strike was deliberate, each counterstrike calculated, and yet everything bore the unpredictability of life itself. It became increasingly clear, their survival was not the product of chance, it was an inevitability born of discipline, ingenuity, and the unyielding human will. Each human fought not merely for life, but for the preservation of choice, of identity, of something greater than mere existence. In their courage and audacity, we saw the impossible made real. We, the observers, catalogers of the cosmos, began to sense the implications. If humans could do this on their own world, under pressure, against technological and numerical supremacy, then what limits truly existed for them? Our assumptions, forged over millennia, proved fragile. Our supremacy, once unquestioned, had cracks now visible to every sensor and observer. As the climax reached its zenith, entire fleets stalled, hesitant, recalculating. The humans pressed forward, relentless, unbroken, forcing retreat, surrender, or annihilation in patterns that left us reeling. The battlefield had been transformed. What had begun as a test of dominance had evolved into revelation. And in that moment, a chilling clarity settled across our minds. Humans were not simply participants in the galactic order, they were agents capable of reshaping it. Not by power alone, not by technology, but by qualities we could neither anticipate, measure, nor replicate. Courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to endure. The climax ended not with a decisive blow, but with understanding, an understanding that humanity had rewritten the very calculus of conflict, and as we retreated to orbit, recalibrating, the echo of their triumph reverberated across the void. The war was far from over, but the universe would never be the same. The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke curled into the sky from shattered machines, scorched earth, and smoldering remnants of our once-ordered formations.
From orbit, we observed the aftermath, a silence so profound it carried weight across the void. Yet within that silence, the reverberations of human ingenuity echoed, louder than any weapon, louder than any signal we had ever recorded. We catalogued countless civilizations, observed empires rise and fall, yet nothing matched what we had just witnessed. A species, apparently fragile and primitive, had faced annihilation and emerged not only unbroken, but triumphant. Their victory was not the product of luck, nor random chance, nor some cosmic quirk. It was inevitability, born of discipline, intelligence, and willpower, embodied most clearly in her, the architect of their resistance, the force around which human ingenuity coalesced. We watched her move among the remnants of battle, not in celebration, but in quiet assessment. She measured, she organized, she guided. Her presence radiated clarity, authority, and calm decisiveness. Where humans faltered, she adjusted. Where humans hesitated,
she inspired. The unity of their purpose, the resilience of their minds, and the strength of their resolve became palpable across our instruments. It was impossible to separate her will from theirs. She was both conductor and participant, the spark and the flame simultaneously. Across the war-torn landscape, humans salvaged, regrouped, and innovated. Every damaged vehicle became an opportunity for adaptation. Every fallen comrade's tactics informed the next step. Their ingenuity, moral courage, and adaptive capacity reshaped not only the battlefield, but the very narrative of conflict itself. We realized, with the clarity that only distance and observation can grant, that we had underestimated this species at every turn. What we had assumed was fragility was resilience. What we had assumed was simplicity was complexity. Our algorithms, designed to predict outcomes based on countless variables, faltered. Patterns we believed universal did not hold here. Variables we considered insignificant, imagination, improvisation, sheer determination, became decisive. Humanity had rewritten the rules of survival, demonstrating that strength alone does not ensure triumph. Survival is not the right of the strong alone, it is the privilege of those who endure, innovate, and refuse to yield. We, the observers, were changed. Our records, our assumptions, our understanding of the galactic order, all were updated, recalibrated. The very definition of an apex species had shifted in our perception.
And in our silence, we understood that humanity's story would spread beyond the confines of their world. Across the stars, their legend would travel, a species that defied expectation, overcame annihilation, and redefined the calculus of survival. Her story, the story of a single human who became the axis upon which the survival of a species turned, would inspire countless generations, alien and human alike. Even the smallest spark, when wielded by those unwilling to surrender, can ignite entire worlds. The lesson was simple yet profound. Courage, intelligence, and the refusal to yield can outmatch any advantage, overcome any force, and transform the very nature of conflict. We departed orbit with new understanding, leaving a world forever altered, not just in physical terms, but in the record of what is possible. Humans, through discipline, will, and ingenuity, had etched themselves into the memory of the galaxy. And as we drifted into the void, one thought persisted across all our minds: to face humanity is to confront inevitability itself. The battlefield was silent, yes, but the legacy of Earth's children roared louder than any weapon, louder than any empire, louder than any star. And we, the watchers of the cosmos, bore witness.